So Ben and I, when we were trying to figure out what to talk about, Ben, when did we sent out the, what was it called? The competition?
Preparing for competition?
Yes. So we had put that out, and so we said, okay, let's...
Competition preparation fund.
Something like that. So basically when we were going through, we were like, you know what, this would be good to expand upon in our lunch and learns. So I'm going to talk about training, because training comes before competition ideally, right? It would not be good to compete and then train. So I'm going to talk training, and then he'll talk competing. Oh, phew. I was like, where are all my notes? Okay, so I'm just going to put it all up there. This is throwing me off because I didn't know that these were in here. Okay, so training versus competing. When I first got into CrossFit many moons ago, Rich Froning was big in the sport. If you don't know who that is, that means like you're really new to this, which is fine. But he said he said in his book that in training he listens to his body, and in competition I tell it to shut up. So I thought that was like a really good way to condense down into 2 sentences, literally the difference between training versus competing. And so I wanted to start with that because this is exactly what it should be, but also what does that really mean in practice? That was something that as I was competing, listening to my body was like really hard for me. And so trying to figure out what that means is some of what I'm going to go through. So training, listening to your body. Some of the things you want to think about is, are your joints achy or is it muscle soreness? Do things feel better or worse as you warm up? Let me ask, how many people have come into a training session feeling like absolute hot garbage? Great. Everyone, right? That's kind of part of it. I hate to say it, is if you're going to do this and do it as like a sport, they're going to feel days that feel real bad. But the difference is trying to iron out, okay, what is normal soreness or I just feel like beat up due to training, and what is like, hey, I have to listen and respond to this. For me, one of the main metrics or main points is how your joints feel. Because when your muscles are sore, there's things you could do. I could foam roll, I could lacrosse ball, I could massage. Your joints don't recover that way, right? They don't get the same amount of blood flow. And so sometimes there will be joint achiness, but when there's like really sharp pain in your shoulder when you put it over your head, like that's not a good sign, right? Really sharp pain when you bend down like this in your knees and you're in this much flexion, that's not good, right? And so what you want to do is try to address those things immediately. Then when you go from there, it's do you feel better or worse as you warm up? So again, I've had achy knees in the past because you squat a lot in CrossFit. And let's say you foam roll, you start to warm up, you get the blood flowing, and then they don't feel as bad. You should be okay. You might just have to modify some things for that day, right? If as you warm up, things feel worse, that's like red alert. You actually have a problem going on there. And you should probably see somebody at that point. If you have a tweak, right? So once we get past like, okay, am I gonna work out today, bless you, or not, right? If you have a tweak, are there ways to adjust the workout or movement to work around the issue and still make progress? The cool thing about CrossFit is there's so many things you could suck at. So it's like there's always something to improve upon. And so there may be things that you can work around, right? Ben will tell you, and I know for me, there's a lot of, and we love you very much, but there's a lot of frustrating things when coaching people. One of them is when you find out that, yeah, I actually have to take some time off. I did X, Y, or Z to my knee or my low back. And you're like, when did that happen? They're like 3 months ago. And it's like, what? I'm sure that's happened to you, right? And it's like, whoa, wait a second. 3 months ago, why didn't you say something to me? Well, I didn't want to. No, there's ways to work around it, okay? So great example, I was working out on Wednesday and I went to bend down to pick up the bar to snatch, and the act of doing this, both adductors were like, dude, please don't squat. And so we had a snatch complex for the strength portion that day, so I just powered. because if I had squatted, I would not have walked the next day, right? And so there's ways you can adjust. Or, we had a gentleman in class a while back. He had a little bit of a back issue, and so we had deadlifts in class, and so he modified the movement so he could still work on his posterior but not put his back in a position where he's deadlifting from the floor. So there's a lot of things you can do to continue to make progress and work around an issue. The next thing is, when you have things pop up, you want to take a step back and start to assess what your recovery looks like. I know that's like the hot topic thing to bring up. How's your recovery? The answer is usually not great. But main things to look at is how you're sleeping. Do you feel a consistent elevated state of anxiety? Like your heart rate just feels high and you're like on edge. Like that's usually a telltale sign of overtraining. And so you have to address it at that point. Do you feel a consistent state of fatigue no matter how much sleep you get? Another surefire sign of overtraining. And is your motivation to train in the tank? So those three are telltale signs of overtraining, especially for people like us. We're usually pretty motivated to get into the gym, right? We're not, listen, I run gyms. There's plenty of people who walk through our doors that don't want to be there. I know that. That's fine, right? But if you're signing up to come to a camp, you probably like exercising. And so if you're someone who the gym is like the last place you want to be for a couple days in a row, like that's also a sign that like your recovery could be off. And so all of these things put together is like being able to say, okay, this is going on. I need to make adjustments so that if you have goals, which I'm assuming most of you have some sort of goal, if you have goals, you're able to continue to make progress towards that goal without doing kind of what I said. I have to take multiple weeks or multiple months off because I didn't listen to my body on the front end. Muscle tweaks and soreness we talked about are things you can work around. So again, I had really sore adductors, so I did power snatches, right? Maybe my lats are super sore from a really tough chest to bar workout 2-3 days ago, and then I got toe to bar. Maybe I do some sort of other core flexion, GHDs instead, right? So there's things you could work around. Whereas joint stuff, so like that sharp pain that gets worse with warming up, that you will usually require some sort of rehab exercise. Maybe the muscles around your knee are weak or you're not activating them correctly. And so that requires taking a step back, doing some corrective exercises to help rehab that area. CNS requires rest. So basically the way I look at it is you have musculature, so your soft tissue, your joints, and then your central nervous system. So your brain and everything that goes into like communicating with your muscles to lift weights. That's like, anyone ever go to pick up a bar, let's use 135 or 95, and you're like, this is light, and then one day you pick it up and you're like who turned the gravity on in here? Like, this is so heavy. Or like we'll joke at the gym, I'll pick the barbell up, and if it feels like, instead of 45 pounds, it feels like 50, it's like, ooh, that's not a good sign, That's your central nervous system. And usually the only way that recovers is like taking some time to sleep, lowering your stress, taking a day off. And that, for me as an athlete, was the hardest one to be able to recognize, especially someone who needed to build strength in the sport. Like that is like, dude, you could take a day off, it's okay. But that was really hard for me. And the number of times, it's probably only a handful, that I did listen to my body and take the day off, that when I came back the next day were like some of my best training sessions, because it was like, I was refreshed. So that's usually when I look at it, when I'm trying to listen to my body, it's like, okay, if this feels bad in my muscles, I can still work out, but work around it. If it's my joints, how do I feel warming up? Okay, I feel better. Let me just do some corrective exercises to activate the muscles around my joints so they feel okay, and then I can still work out. If it feels worse, maybe I need to take some time. And if it's my central nervous system, usually it's like, dude, take a day off, go sit in the sun, take a nap, and then tomorrow you'll be ready to crush it. Does that all make sense? Okay. Now, once we move past that, another thing that people do in training that is tough is they treat it as if they're competing, right? And so what I put up here is you want to shoot for the stimulus in a workout, but don't be afraid to push your limits. So, for example, Ben did that workout. You said it was 12 calories on the bike, 12 bar muscle ups, and 12 calories on the bike for a bunch of rounds, right? So, That's a lot. But for the rest of us, 12 bar muscle ups, maybe in the past, or I look at that workout and I say, okay, I would break that up into 3 sets of 4. It's okay on certain training days to be like, you know what, I'm gonna try it in 2 sets of 6, right? Because you're not gonna know what that limit is unless you try it. And then if it goes to hell in a handbasket, it's like, well, not ready to do that yet, right? But if it goes really, really well, now you know coming into competition, like, oh, I can do that. I can approach a workout similar to this and break the sets up in that way. So testing out new set size, or if you're doing a workout that is barbell cycling and normally you don't touch and go, maybe you look at the workout and say, I'm gonna try some touch and go reps. Trying a new row pace than you normally would, right? Worst case is things fall apart. There was a workout Ben had me do. It was the one with like the really long run, row, line burpees. Yes. And he laughed at me because I was like, I got on the rower, and normally in this workout I'd hold like a 1,200 to 1,300 cal per hour pace. And he's like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, I can't do that anymore. But I didn't know that until I tried to do it. But again, if you can find new things that you can do in those workouts, then, and Ben will go over competing, you now know, okay, this isn't like my bag, like I could pull it out when I need to. And lastly, you want to find the balance between staying connected to your why, to push, and living to fight another day. It's a very delicate balance, all right? Something I talk about a lot is finding your why. Like, why even bother coming into the gym? Why? It's hot, people smell bad, you gotta look at his face every time you come in. And look at him, he doesn't look that happy. See? So it's like, why even come in? And so you have to have a reason why you do it. For Ben, I don't want to speak for him actually. For me, it was to compete at the highest level I could, right? And so I wanted to get to Wadapalooza, get to the fittest experience. Like, that was fun for me. And so being connected to those reasons for training allows you to push, and then being able to recognize that today's not the day and live to fight another day is going to allow you to continue to improve by 1%. I say that to my clients all the time. If you just get 1% better every day, you're 52% better by the end of the year. That's a lot.
Well, also there's like the compounding effects.
Right. Yeah. Math guy over here. All right, but what's the difference? Competing, the task is the focus. I don't care how you feel, and neither does anyone else. You signed up for the competition, get the work friggin' done. I remember doing a team competition with a guy. We go into day 2, and he was new to competing at that level, and he's picking up the dumbbell. He's like, dude, this is so heavy, and I feel so sore. And I go, yeah, so does everybody else. And so that is the difference in competition. You can't be sucked into how you feel, because at the end of the day, you have to do 21, 15, 9 of these movements, and if you don't feel good, it doesn't matter. So you have to really train yourself that when you step into competition, you are solely focused on the task and not how you feel. You need to take more of a strategic approach. That's another thing I've seen. So in training, you can test your limits, figure out what you're able to do, what not to do. When you step into competition, you want to go in with a plan. You want to try to stick to the plan, maybe make some slight adjustments as you get more mature in the sport. But I've seen many people that go in, this is what I'm going to do, and then all hell breaks loose as soon as they hear the go, and then it goes like this. Don't get sucked into what's going on around you. I think that run your race, but also remember that it's a race. So you want to make sure you go in with a plan and try to stick to the plan. And then run your race, but also remember that it's a race. What I mean by that, and it's a balance, right, is run your races, you're staying in your lane, you're focusing on your strategy, and you're not worrying about what's going on around you. Because the way I would think about it as a competition is like, those people, they might not know anything. And they're going out so fast, and then I'm gonna pass them later on in the workout. And so you need to come in with your plan, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and play into that. And then at the end of the event, that's when you look to push your limits and try to beat people. Because on the other end of it, I've seen people stay so far within their plan that in the last 10 seconds and those last 3 reps, they refuse to go touch and go, and they walk across the line, and it's like 3rd place. And it's like, bro, you were right there. Like, you're racing people. Go fast, like, get it done. And so you have to remember that You have to go in with a strategy. You have to stick to your strategy. But when it comes to racing at the end, remember that CrossFit is a race and you have to try to beat people. Does that make sense? Again, a delicate balance, and most of it happens at the end of the workout, not in the beginning of the workout. But being able to have that killer instinct to chase someone down is what's going to help you get the points that you're looking to get. Now, that's all well and good. But if you want to maximize your training, there's certain things you can do in order to do that. So one is lifestyle. Things like good sleep hygiene, good fueling and nutrition, stretch management, and good relationships, okay? So I'm going to go through each one. Sleep hygiene, okay? Are you scrolling on your phone in bed? Not good. Do you have the TV on in your room while you're in bed? Also not good. You want to make sure that you're in a dark, cool room. You're not in front of screens. God forbid you're on your computer working. Like, that is like the worst thing you could be doing right before bed. You want to set yourself up for success in your bedtime routine leading into sleep, because if you sleep well, you're going to wake up ready to go the next day. Okay? The big rig rocks I see around sleep hygiene, honestly, are the screens especially, and then making sure that your room is set up appropriately to get the sleep that you need. Then you have fueling and nutrition, right? Ben and I were joking about McDonald's. Not good to eat before training, right? So there's general fueling and nutrition, or there's general nutrition, right? So making sure you're eating enough calories and getting enough protein, carbs, and fat to fuel your training. That's generally, like, across the day, did I get enough to get the results that I want? And then there's fueling before a workout, right? So over the course of the day, maybe I'm getting enough calories, but before a workout, it's not the best time to eat like a very fatty meal, right? And then go into a workout with like this brick in your stomach, right? That's where you want to time up things like carbs, or I know Stacy's joked with Ben about eating like his honey, like in like before workouts or something like that. But instant carbohydrates like that, or by us, it's like gummy bears or gummy worms, like in between sets or something like that, will allow you to kind of like get the carbs that you need to really maximize the training you're doing in that session. So again, there's general nutrition, making sure you're eating enough and the right things to maximize your results. And then as you zero in on the session, making sure you're getting clean protein and carbs around your session so that you can train well is super important. Then you have stress management. How many people have been in the gym and heard someone be like, oh, I just need to work out today to relieve my stress? Anyone ever hear that before? Yeah, okay, that's fine. But over the length of time, it's actually not the best thing to be doing, because your body just interprets stress as stress. There's physical stress, right? Like, I'm training, but your body doesn't know the difference between that and I got in a fight with my spouse and I'm being chased by the cops. Like, your body feels it the same way. And so instead, you need to develop certain things where when you're outside of the gym, how do I manage my stress and bring myself into what's called a parasympathetic state? There's sympathetic, which means fight or flight, and parasympathetic, which means like, chill, bro. How do I get there? Because that aids recovery. So like, things I do with my athletes is like, when the session's over, they've cooled down, they're finding a dark room, they're lying down on their back, and they're doing what's called box breathing. 4 seconds in, 4 second hold, 4 second exhale, 4 second hold. And if you do that for 5 to 10 minutes and you feel like you need to take a nap, you are officially in a parasympathetic state, right? And you could use things like breath techniques. Like, I've used it at work before because I've wanted to just throttle people. So finding different techniques you can take to bring your stress level down will allow you to maximize your ability to adapt to the training you have at hand. If you're always in an elevated state, always at a 7, 8, 9, 10 stress level, then you're just jamming your head into a wall and actually not even adapting to the training that you're doing. And then I thought, this might seem silly, but good relationships. And what I mean by that is, if you're training to compete especially, you want to have people around you that support you going for that. There's nothing worse than, and I've seen this with people we see at the gyms I work at, like finding a new support system. Like, someone's finally looking to get healthy and lose some weight, and all their friends are like, what, you can't have pizza? Like, what's wrong with you? And then they fall back into old habits, right? So if you're training to compete, making sure, like when I was competing, God bless my wife. Like, she was very supportive and made sure like I had a 2-hour block of time, 2.5-hour block of time to train, right? And we might have to maneuver it around the kids' schedule, but we both knew and we're in agreement. I'm looking to do this, so this is the block of time that I'm gonna take. But if you don't have people around you that support those goals, then you're literally just fighting against that and having to use your own willpower all the time, and eventually you're gonna lose that battle. And so that's a tough one, but being able to find people that are your cheerleaders towards your goals versus your detractors is actually it's like a superpower. We talked some about recovery, so sleep, nutrition, stretching, mobility, and soft tissue work. I had to include this because it's the first thing that goes for me. And so it's really important to take time to do that. Priority-based spending. So are you buying beers or are you buying coaching? Are you spending money on, healthy food and supplements or doing something else, right? We talked about this yesterday, I think. Yes, at your house. When someone comes into our gyms, we have an intake form, and one of the things down there is how much do you spend drinking, how much do you spend eating out, do you buy cigarettes? So when I sit with someone, they go, I can't afford a gym membership. It's like, but you spend $150 a week eating out. There's a gym membership, right? And so basically anytime I hear someone say, yes, I have a goal of achieving X, Y, or Z, but I won't hire a coach, like, to me, I'm like, whoa, okay, well, what are you spending your money on? And then when you talk through it, it's like, dude, no, you have the money. You're just, this isn't as much of a priority for you as you say it is. And if it was, then you would change your spending habits to reflect that. And so for you guys, it's like, if you have a goal, being able to step back and look at, okay, where am I allocating my resources? And then reallocating them accordingly is gonna be super important. And then trying to keep a consistent routine, but not getting bent out of shape if it needs to be adjusted. I find that if I train at the same time every single day, it's like a rhythm, right? I feel good. I know I eat at this time. I know I take caffeine at this time, and I know I can work out at this time, right? And so trying to find that consistent rhythm is super important, but understanding that life happens and knowing how to adjust accordingly is also super important, right? I mentioned my wife. I have 2 kids, right? And so if I got worked up every time I couldn't train at the same time, like, I would just be in a constant state of like anger, because sometimes kids get sick, sometimes they have activities, sometimes they have to go to wrestling matches, right? And so it's like, when that happens, it's like, okay, I know 70 to 80% of the time, this is the time I work out, and I've set that in my calendar, and I've set the rhythm to do that to maximize my training. But if I need to move it, I'm not gonna get bent out of shape, and adjust it accordingly is super, super important. Now, once we've ironed out all the logistics, there's the whole mental side of things. So if you were here last year, I did a whole long presentation around building like an ironclad mindset. And so this stuff is like really, really important to me, because I feel like for me, when I was an athlete, whether I was younger, going through sports or doing CrossFit, the times I made the most progress were times I made progress between my ears. And so being able to have the proper approach to training each and every day is super important. So one of the things is I look at is process over results and progress over perfection, right? So the goal is to just get 1% better every day, which amounts to way more percents than I know, according to Sam. Okay, but actually, speaking of Sam was on a podcast with us, I want to say it was camp number 3 maybe. And one of the things you said, you probably don't even remember it, is he's like, I try to look at it as I have, maybe I'm going to use a round number, 1,000 training sessions over my time being a CrossFitter. And so it's like, if I look at it like that, then it's like each training session doesn't become as like life or death, and it allows me to enjoy each one along the way. And I was like, that is a freaking great way to look at it, because oftentimes we get sucked into the fact that like today is all about this, and if I don't PR today, then it's like all this time was a complete waste. And it's like, no, dude, this is training session number 4 out of 1,200, right? Like, why don't you do the best you can and come back for number 5? And so being able to take that approach of like, if I could just get a little bit better every day, even if it's at something really small, then over 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, it's gonna be like, holy smokes, look at all the progress that I made. I think actually Ben even posted something the other day of like, oh no, we posted something about like when we were first started, and Ben was like, super skinny and not lifting any weight. Now he's like super jacked and can do all these things. Like that progress is just from getting a little bit better each day. Don't let an imperfect environment ruin your training session. So things are gonna go wrong. Again, you wanna set up your environment for success, and I'm sure Ben will get into this with competing, but nothing bothers me more when someone's like, well, I couldn't have a good training session today. Did you feel how hot it was outside? And it's like, bro, it's July. Yeah, of course it's hot. Like, get over it. Or like, I couldn't believe what happened. You know, I wore the wrong sneakers. And it's like, then tie them tighter and get the workout in, right? So don't let an imperfect training environment ruin the progress you could have made that day. Create guardrails around the things that could pull your focus away from what you're doing. The classic example of this is the person who walks into the gym, gets changed, drops their stuff, lays on a foam roller and scrolls their phone for a half hour. And then they text me and email me, dude, I can't get in all the work you're giving me in a training session. Like, it's taking me 2.5 hours. And then it's like, I look at it and I'm like, this is a 90-minute session. Why is this taking 2.5 hours? And then I come to find out it's because, well, I had to talk to Susie and then I foam rolled for 30 minutes and I got stuck scrolling on my phone. That's like a complete time suck away from what you're doing. And so being able to set guardrails in place, like, the nice part about working in a gym is you get to work out when you have time. The bad part about working in a gym is that's also your work environment. And so people could come in looking for questions and text you. And so being able to say to yourself, I got an hour, phone goes off, and I'm gonna focus for an hour to get my work done is gonna allow you to be way more productive in your sessions than not. Or even setting it in your calendar as this is non-negotiable time is gonna allow you to stay focused on the work that you're doing. And then the last two are staying connected to your why, remembering there are no points on the line today. If you don't have a great day, no one likes having a bad training session, it's okay. You didn't win today, you didn't lose today, right? Remember that there were no points on the line today. Come back tomorrow and try to do better. And being connected to your why is what allows you to just keep showing up day after day, grinding away, putting in the work to get towards your goal. And so those are really big, and were really big for me is remembering like, okay, this is why I'm doing it, and no points were lost today. I term your why as your North Star. And so basically, I don't know much about outdoors, but the North Star is supposed to take you where you want to go, right? So don't always compare yourself or to other people. Don't compare yourself to other people. Ben and I talked about this the other day. Sometimes you talk to people and you'll give them a workout and they struggle because, and maybe this is you, they struggle because it's like, well, what time should I get in this workout? Or like, what are other people getting in this workout? And it's like, why does it matter? Like, you should go your speed. And I don't like giving you a time because I could say this needs to be done in 10 minutes and you feel great that day and you're like at 8, you're like, oh, I better slow down. Or you're not feeling great that day and you're like, well, I'm not gonna get 10. So being able to focus on what's gonna get you to the next level and not fall into the comparison game and using your why as your North Star because you're heading north, don't head south, is gonna be super, super important. So what we should do is, we have a session later, is implement this. All right, thanks guys.